So welcome back to another episode of LA Fishguys. We've just loaded up some salt water to go out and do a few more services this afternoon. We'll end up finishing up at Scott's house. He's the fellow with that big 500-gallon Reef Aquarium, and we're going to try to learn a little bit about LED type lighting. Apparently it's becoming the rage in the hobby, so much so that the old standard fluorescent bulbs, those big fat T12s, are becoming difficult to find. Those of us who came from the aquarium hobby back in the 80s and the 90s are finding ourselves forced into upgrading to new styles of lighting. Those of us in the service business find ourselves having to promote or sell new styles of lighting system, as the old ones tend to become obsolete or parts difficult to find. So what is LED style lighting? Well, it's instead of an incandescent bulb that is a globe with a filament inside of it that produces a light as a result of heat, or a fluorescent bulb, which is a tube filled with a gas that's ignited and causes that gas to glow. LED type lighting is actually a little electronic circuit, and it's able to emit a visible light spectrum. One of the nice things about LED style lighting is it's controllable, not only in its intensity, but its color as well as its hue. Because it's so much smaller, it does also produce a lot less heat and consumes less electricity. So it's a more efficient style lighting. But I still really don't understand it well enough, and that's the whole point of this episode. Let's see if we can learn a little bit more about LED style lighting. What are you doing there, knucklehead?
I'm going blind because I forgot to put my goggles on.
That's what I said, knucklehead. They're sitting right by your foot.
Yes, do not try this at home.
Goodness.
I'm working on my my new light rack, cutting aluminum.
New light rack? What's new about the new light rack?
Well, the old light rack is wood. It was put together when I built the tank in about 13, 14 years ago.
Okay.
It stood the test of time, but we're in the process of a lighting upgrade. We're going to be switching over to LEDs here in the very, very near future.
Ooh, LEDs. Tell us just a little bit, what's an LED?
Well, an LED is a light emitting diode. It's basically an electronic circuit that when you run power through it, it lights up.
Okay.
Advantages to LED is they're a lot more efficient than some of the more typical lighting that you see in aquariums.
Incandescent and fluorescent?
Incandescent, which is typically not used, but metal halides, fluorescents, and stuff of that nature. The LEDs, when used properly, have the ability to put out a lot more lighting for the, in comparison to the amount of wattage that you're using. So a metal halide, 400 watts, you can conceivably replace with a 180 watt or 160 watt or smaller LED package and get comparable lighting.
Wow.
So the idea is improve the lighting while saving on the electric bill.
Okay, okay. All right, so the new light rack is made out of?
Made out of aluminum.
Aluminum.
Goes together with a series of fittings.
And that's for our European friends, that's aluminium?
Aluminium, yes.
Okay.
That's what they say. But essentially it mounts together with a series of little pieces here that you pound in, and then you essentially hook them together into, your framework.
Assemble a lighter rack.
Yes, assemble a light rack. This is made, actually, these parts came from a company called Easy Tube, and they specialize in easy to assemble framing out of aluminum.
Oh, okay.
So here I am building it.
All right, so we've got a wooden one that's currently in the tank or hanging above the tank, and you've got a new aluminum one that's not assembled yet. How are we going to take out the old and put in the new?
Oh, the good old Sawzall. We're going to mask off the inside of the tank with tarps, and we're going to cut the old one out. Since it was assembled in the tank, it was a little easier to deal with. It doesn't go out through the doors, unfortunately. So the new one's going to actually have to go in essentially two bigger pieces plus the center section, and we'll get to that in just a little bit.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Sounds great. All right, so been a little bit busy, cut up all the aluminum pieces, started putting it together. You can see I've got basically the two halves assembled. This is the way it's going to go into the tank. I'll have a left half and a right half, and essentially they'll fit in through the door, and then once they're in the door, it'll be assembled in there using these little middle pieces to connect them together. Now, as you can see, I've got all these plastic connectors that I showed you earlier. We've got our keys, we've got our little 90-degree fittings here for the corners. What I've done, because I need to be able to get this together easily, and these really need a lot of pounding to get on, is I've gone ahead and actually ground down these surfaces so that these pieces can fit in a little bit easier. You saw when I was putting that other piece in, it was a little bit difficult to get in. By grinding these down, it'll actually make it so I can put it together in the tank stand. So here we go. We're going to pound these things in. Now you're probably asking yourself, if it goes together that easily, it's going to fall apart in there. And I have a plan. There's actually metal plates that go in here that will be backings for some of the fixtures that I'm using, and they'll be screwed in. It'll basically give these two halves structure and keep them from coming apart. So you kind of got to work it down the line. Now we go to assemble this inside the tank. I'll put a 2x12 or something, which is actually already in there as the old light stock, and I'll be able to bang this on the sides. You'll also notice that I put these little wheels here on the ends. Now our fixture is basically assembled here. There is aluminum tracks that we use these wheels to roll up and down the track, and they'll keep, let's try this again. These will be mounted to the wall, and they will keep light fixture centered as it goes up and down the walls. So, nice little means of kind of keeping this thing from going back and forth. And in California, we get to deal with earthquakes, so make sure that the light rack doesn't, smack the walls and stuff in case the ground starts moving. So, that said, finished pounding it. Light rack is basically together. We'll go ahead and push your feet. Making sure that the pony dog didn't attack my feet with her stuff. Let's go inside. Yeah, take your feet.
When in Los Angeles, make it a point to stop in Long Beach, California at Age of Aquariums, 2642 Cherry Avenue, just off the 405 freeway near Signal Hill. At Age of Aquariums, their knowledgeable staff showcases designer aquariums featuring colorful corals and exotic fish, a spectacular 4-sided 500-gallon living coral reef, along with a wide selection of coral frags and a large selection of saltwater fish, the cute, the graceful, and the not so cute. Age of Aquariums also carries a selection of popular freshwater fish for the beginning hobbyist. Along with a full line of aquarium supplies and supplements, Age of Aquariums quarantines and medicates all their new fish and proudly provides LA and Orange County's largest aquarium maintenance service. Age of Aquarium is located at 2642 Cherry Avenue, just off the 405 freeway near Signal Hill. Open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays. For more information, dial 562-438-6252 or visit ageofaquariums.biz. Hello, my name's Jim Stime. I'm the LA Fish Guy. Would you like to learn more about marine aquariums? Are you willing to travel to learn a little bit more about marine aquariums? Well, the Greater Iowa Reef Society is hosting MACNA 2011. That's the Marine Aquarium Conference of North America, and it'll take place in Des Moines, Iowa this coming September 9th, 10th, and 11th of 2011. They've asked me, the LA Fish Guy, to give a presentation make a note that it's Friday morning at 10 o'clock. So schedule yourself appropriately, and I'll see you there. And here's how to gather more information.
Alright, so we brought our light rack in the house to, play with, see how everything's going to go together. I've got these aluminum plates here. They act as structural support. They'll be screwed in and it'll help keep the two ends together. They'll also provide a good surface for me to mount the LEDs that are going to light up the center overflow. So they basically drop in, I drill some holes and screw it down, and then we'll get into how those other lights are going to mount. So in the interim, this is our new light fixture. Essentially, we're going to have 4 of these. These consist of 4 boards. Or these ones particularly consist of 4 boards. They've got a series of LEDs. They use white LEDs, blue LEDs, and royal blue LEDs. Each LED color is controlled separately, so the controller will allow you to dim and vary the brightness of each color LED. It'll also provide a sunrise and sunset that moves across the fixture. It dims itself on for sunrise and dims itself off for sunset. It'll move from left to right across the rack to kind of follow the natural sunrise pattern. I've made this bracket here, which basically allows me to put my fixture into the rack. Sits in these slots here, and it allows me to also kind of adjust it as I need. The light rack itself will be attached to pulleys, and the pulleys will allow me to raise and lower the height of the rack. These little brackets are going to mount on this plate here, and you can see how this mounts to the LED fixture. These will allow me to tilt my light fixture in towards the overflow. That'll help me with a couple things. One, it'll give me better coverage, and the ability to tilt them will also help to eliminate some of the algae growth on the glass. These particular fixtures and lights, they don't use I forgot what they're called, but there's little things that go over the LED fixture that will come to me in a moment that change the spread pattern. They have, they're called optics, and they have optics that, for different LEDs that go 40 degrees or 70 degrees and whatnot. These fixtures don't use optics, so they really get a big spread. A small 14-inch fixture like this can cover a 36 by 36-inch area. So the plan is one fixture here, another fixture on this side, which is basically what I call the front and back of the tank. And then we'll have 2 more fixtures that'll be lower wattage. They're half the wattage. They actually have half the boards in them, LED boards in them, that those do. And they'll be rated about 90 watts. And essentially they'll face inwards towards the overflow. Only, of course, on the bottom side there. And will light up my overflow and help even out the spread of the lights. I expect that I'll probably be running these at half power. My total wattage, I think, is like 560 watts. I'll probably be running in the 300 watt range or less, compared to 800 watts in my metal halide lighting. So at the end of the month, that should be a pretty significant savings. So we touched on the old light rack that was made out of wood, and I figured I'll show you what we're talking about and where the aluminum one's going to go and how we're going to get it in there, sort of. If you look up here, these are the doors, my obstacle that I got to deal with. The old light rack is winch controlled, as the new one will be, using the same cable system. You can look up there and see the 4 cables. They're attached to each corner of the light rack. And with the push of a button in the closet, the light rack will go up and down. The challenge is going to be, of course, getting the old light rack out. That's where Sawzall comes in. We'll chop it up and haul it out the doors. New one will go in 2 pieces, and then we'll kind of assemble those pieces in the soffit area up there. Should be a pretty easy job. You might have noticed also how the light rack kind of wobbled back and forth when it went up. The tracks and the wheels on the sides of my other light rack that I showed you earlier should inhibit that and help it to go up and down a lot smoother. Also kind of playing down the line to change out the winch. We use a slide actuator, which is virtually silent. This thing, of course, it's been with me a lot of years. It's served its purpose, but it's also very, very noisy. It's way overkill, and I do plan on replacing that. And as it sits now, I could sell that thing for more than the new little actuator setup will cost me. So that'll be money well spent and quiet things down, and it'll also allow the light rack to travel up and down slower. Beyond that, In our next episode, we're actually going to cover the cutting of this out. We're going to cover getting the new rack in and setting up lights. So, a great time to stay tuned, and we'll keep on moving forward, and hopefully you keep on watching.